Welcome back, Soulful Society, to Soulful of Wellness,
the multi-generational podcast brought to you by two functional imperfectionists
and certified coaches
who deliver tips to live your most authentic and balanced life.
In this episode, you're going to learn how positive self-talk can make you a happier person, how to break your negative self-talk spiral, make peace with your inner gremlin, and replace your interfering thoughts with positive affirmations. As you've come to expect, we're going to drop some truth bombs here and maybe some scenarios, and then we're going to give you the simple tools you need to be more confident and secure as you progress in your personal health journey.
Hello, listeners. Thank you for joining us again this week as we tackle self-talk. Please take a minute to follow, rate, and review Soulful of Wellness on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening today. When you do that, it helps the algorithm make us more available so that not only do you not miss a week of wellness goodness, but other people out there in the podcast listening world can better find us. While you're there, take a look at our new cover art. We're so excited. We treated ourselves to some professional cover art in honor of surpassing 100 episodes of wellness.
Today, as you may have guessed, we're talking about that inner monologue that we all have. You are not crazy. Everyone has this voice, this inner voice that's often called self-talk, which combines our thoughts, our beliefs, and our personal biases to provide a way for our brains to interpret and process our daily experiences.
So today we're giving you new tools to improve your self-talk and quiet that darn gremlin.
What is an inner gremlin, Kit?
Well, if you want a detailed episode on your inner gremlin, please refer back to episode 5, Hello Inner Gremlin, we see you. Generally, the inner gremlin is that negative self-talk voice inside of you. Tends to pipe up at your most vulnerable or stressed out or underslept moments when it sees that you are available to succumb to some unhealthy self-talk.
Exactly. It jumps right in. It's a way for you to identify gosh, I'm being so mean to myself. No. That's your inner gremlin.
Oh, yeah.
It's really helpful to personify it. We learned about this at Georgetown during our coaching program. The author of The Inner Gremlin is Rick Carson. It's a fabulous book that really details and outlines that negative self-talk gremlin.
Yeah, and when you spend time getting to know your inner gremlin, it takes some of that gremlin's power away because you see it, you know it, you recognize it, you know how to tame it, you know how to talk to it. You can even predict when it's likely to surface.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this little toolbox you pull out and you're like, oh, wait,
Yeah.
know you. I know what you're doing. I even know why you're doing it. And this is how it's going to go. And you take back the reins of control there.
Oh, I love that. We love taking back the reins of control.
Yes.
And you can help identify maybe why it's showing up. I think that's the most helpful for me. Like, wait, why? Oh, I'm so exhausted and I'm stressed out. Maybe that's why my inner gremlin's popping up.
Self-talk. Why is it important? Why is it relevant? Why are we doing a whole episode on it? Positive self-talk and just generally having a more optimistic outlook on life can have significant health benefits. Improved function of your immune system, particularly relevant in modern day times, reduced chronic pain, better cardiovascular health, better overall physical well-being. Here's a big one for me: less stress and less distress, and generally greater overall satisfaction with your own life.
We love it. Self-talk is a secret superpower.
So if you're experiencing some vocalization from that inner gremlin, negative thoughts, negative self-talk, Does that make you a lesser person?
Why, no, it doesn't, Kit, because negative thoughts are simply part of having a brain.
Good news.
It simply means that you have a brain, you are a human being. They are the most normal thing to occur.
Love hearing that. So when we get stuck in rumination, we've talked about those thoughts that bumper car around in my brain. It's like a pinball machine in there. We tend to zoom in on the problem and hyper focus.
Yeah.
And then the emotion starts coming into it, and you get this reaction that might even manifest physically in heat or pain or tightness.
Yeah.
So you get this loop of pinwheeling thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
spiraling emotions, and getting really super entrenched. So you're just locked in this vicious cycle of feeling worse and worse about it.
Mm-hmm. I'm nodding because that's very familiar. It's a human experience. So, before we get into the tools that we are super excited to share with you, because it is really awesome to learn more tools. You know, we've both read the book, How to Tame Your Inner Gremlin, and learned so much. So, to hear that there's new tools out there is super exciting. Before we get into that, we want to go over real quick so you can identify maybe what your inner gremlin's main strategy is.
Yes.
Negative self-talk generally falls into one of these four categories. The first is personalizing. So this is you blaming yourself for everything. You know, something goes wrong, it was your fault, all on you.
The second category might be magnifying. Do you focus on the negative aspects of the situation, ignoring any and all of the positive that's also happening?
The third one is catastrophizing. So you're expecting the worst. You rarely let logic or reason persuade you otherwise. You're just going to the worst case scenario in your brain most of the time.
Fourth category is polarizing. You see the world in black and white or good and bad. I've talked about how I can tend to have digital thoughts like I'm on or I'm off, and there's no in between. There's nothing that serves as a middle ground or moderation.
So now that you've heard those four categories, do any of those resonate with you more than others? Or maybe there's two strategies that you feel like your gremlin uses the most. So take that with you along for the ride on this episode to help you pick out which tools you want to try this week.
Let's get to the good stuff.
Let's do it. All right, our first tool, distance self-talk. Okay, super interesting. Talking to yourself in the third person or being your own coach. So let's dive into this, Kit.
Okay, we make fun of politicians who do this. We make fun of famous people who talk about themselves in the third person.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out, joke's on us. This distanced self talk is actually a really powerful wellness tool when it comes to taming that inner gremlin, to tamping those negative thoughts and turning it around, because it allows you to have some perspective.
It's so crazy that calling yourself by your own name, like talking in the third person, is not that crazy. I mean, we suggest you do this when you're alone, and maybe not out loud.
Right.
But even LeBron James does it. So an example was when he said in an interview, I got to put LeBron James first. And that may sound conceited, that may sound weird and crazy, like we said, maybe do that by yourself. But what was he doing? He was putting himself in objectivity mode. He was trying to see the situation objectively instead of letting those spiraling thoughts of blaming himself or catastrophizing get in the way. He was trying to say, LeBron needs to do what LeBron needs to do.
That lets you disconnect a little bit from the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're observing your friend in a situation and you're thinking, what the heck? I just want to rescue her. What is she thinking? How can she not see this? And you feel like you and everyone close to you can see the situation for what it is, except for the person involved in it. This is how you can do that for yourself. It's zooming out. We've talked about the zoom out strategy in the past. It's sort of a specialized version of the zoom out strategy. You're distancing yourself from the emotion of what's going wrong for you and giving yourself some perspective
Mm-hmm.
to rationally
Mm-hmm.
figure out what the situation is, see it for what it is, and better be able to figure out what to do about it.
Yes, I love it. And instead of asking, what should I do? What should I do?
Yeah.
What should insert your name do? Like,
Yeah.
what should they do? And yeah, it allows yourself to gain that objectivity as if you were talking to a friend. And like you hear that so often, right? Talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. Well, either said than done, this allows you to sort of, like you said, get like zoom out, get the broader perspective. And the benefit of this tool is it allows us to be deliberate.
Yes.
Instead of letting that emotional spiral run the show and take over, we can regain control. It's crazy how this is like scientifically proven and it works. Just try it.
And a lot of self talk happens inside our heads. When we're saying talk, we don't mean audibly. However, I will give the caveat that when I'm in my car and driving is a huge potential trigger for me, I get nervous just out of the gate before anything goes wrong. So then when something doesn't go according to the plan I had in mind, I can tend to quickly spiral. I love how acceptable it is now to talk over Bluetooth. Like we can have phone calls in the car and you look over, you see somebody who's visibly in a car alone talking, and you don't assume the person's having some positive self-talk. You assume the person's talking to another actual live human being. So when I talk out loud to myself in the third person in the car, I love that people looking at me don't think I'm crazy. They think it's a conversation with someone else.
Maybe it is. You're talking to your gremlin. So this next tool, I'll say the tool and then we'll get into it. So carefully pick a few people that can be your chatter consultant. So chatter is coined by author Ethan Kross. He wrote an amazing book on self-talk, and this is a tool that we've pulled from him. So when we get stuck in this loop, and again, I cannot express enough how normal it is, right, for our brains to get caught in these loops, because I feel like our brains have so much control over what we do.
Brains love to run away with things. They like to take one little thing and just run with it and make it big.
Yeah.
And when we can do that with something positive, it's really great. But often brains do that with something negative and overshadow all the positive.
It's like their main goal is, I gotta protect you. I gotta protect you. What if this? What if that? Everybody hates you.
Yes. Go home and hide. Hide
Yes.
now. Save yourself the pain.
When we are repeating and repeating those negative thoughts, our stress response becomes chronic over time. And also it's like a catch-22, because when you're stressed, that is definitely a trigger for negative self-talk. So let's give you a scenario here. You're venting to someone. How common is this? More common than you realize, especially in women. So we learned from Ethan Kross that if all you do in a conversation is express your emotions and vent, which is to a degree healthy, there are benefits to that.
Right. Not to say don't ever vent. It's healthy to let things out, especially things that are bothering you. You find a trusted friend or family member and you share, you let those feelings out of you.
Yes. So that is important to a degree. So just watch out. Just be aware of this. So if you begin to basically, that's all the conversation is for a long period of time, where it's just expressing your emotions and venting and nothing else, you're often just upset if not more upset after leaving that conversation, because you're co-ruminating with someone about a problem. You're both riling each other up about that person who did that thing, and then you're both kind of emotionally charged, and that can be validating, of course, having that other person feeling the same way. But what have you done to be able to shift, to pivot, to gain a little bit of a different perspective after you've vented?
The difference between somebody you know to be a sympathetic ear who's just going to let you sit in those emotions ad nauseum, as opposed to a chatter consultant who will listen
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe ask you a question to move you in a direction,
Mm-hmm.
or possibly at times distract you in another direction, to just give you the space to do the venting, but then have movement towards something positive rather than dwelling in the negative.
Because the more we dwell on the negative, the more we rile ourselves up and we get in that loop. So this person, this chatter consultant, can help steer the conversation, right? Like what you were saying, Kit, steer it away to something to allow you to broaden your perspective on it. Get yourself a chatter consultant, steer the conversation to help you see the bigger picture. All right, our next tool. Enhancing our exposure to green spaces. I love this one. Going outdoors.
I love how this is increasingly becoming a theme.
Yeah.
And it's not just because you and I love being outdoors, which undeniably we do. When we research our topics for each podcast episode, I'm seeing it more and more. And I love that, because I love when it's something I want to do anyway, and then I'm told to do it or told it's an effective tool or strategy, because then I'm like, okay, don't need to tell me again. Although
Mm-hmm.
apparently you do need to tell me again. But anyway, I'll still do it because I want to do it anyway. So it works. And I
Mm-hmm.
think mental health experts and researchers are finding increasingly, especially probably because of the pandemic, that time outdoors was undervalued for way too long for the
Mm-hmm.
natural, pun fully intended, healing remedy that it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, scientists are doing these studies and they've come out with the fact that this is so good for us, specifically in the context of self-talk, because our attention gently drifts onto our surroundings. It's no longer about, did I come across really bitchy in that email?
Mm-hmm.
It's about, whoa, the sky is so vast and look at these trees and these animals running around, or
Yes.
experiencing that vastness of nature helps us feel awe. And how often are we in awe? Not often. So the fact that you can just go outside and gain that feeling is kind of inspiring.
The fact that we can simply by walking out of doors experience the awe, the curiosity, and the wonder
Mm-hmm.
within us, and to have new perspective from feeling like a small piece of a larger interconnected universe. I don't even know what to call it. Just I'm a small but important piece of a collective
Mm-hmm.
whole that is beyond my wildest imaginings.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a really powerful tool for gaining perspective.
Mm-hmm. You feel smaller. I feel like I've said that before to friends. Like, I really want to go for a hike because I just want to feel small. When you're walking through the woods and you're looking up at the trees and you're just intaking the fresh air and looking around at your surroundings, and you're gaining more perspective. And it's also, we know the science behind how calming it is for like your blood pressure and your overall stress.
I mentioned, I think it was 2 episodes ago, the effects of seasonal affect disorder from a very cold, very dark January in which I went outside extremely little, and I was really just feeling the malaise of that. So for all of February, I've made a really concerted effort to spend anywhere from 15 minutes to 60 minutes of outdoor time each day, even when it's cloudy and kind of dreary. it still helps me. So it's more than just sunshine. It's the being outside has really elevated my entire demeanor. And just the part that you can't really control, only apparently you can control it by your behaviors,
Mm,
outlook to life.
man, nature, just so many benefits. So many benefits.
Yeah, I feel like such low barriers to entry, go outside, such low cost, and where's the downside? Even if it doesn't help, at least there's no downside. So worst case scenario, you haven't gained anything, but you haven't
Mhm.
lost anything. Go
Mhm.
outside.
So our tools here were distance self-talk, so talking in the third person, get a chatter consultant, and enhance our exposure to green spaces. These are creative ways that we can help adjust our self-talk. And basically the themes here are identify your negative self-talk traps. I love this one. Pinpoint where you experience the most negative self talk so you can anticipate. So the other day, I was really spiraling in my head, angry with myself, beating myself up. I don't even remember why. And I thought to myself, why is my inner gremlin here? And I thought, oh, it was perfect timing for it to show up because I was tired and I was stressed out. So I thought, oh, so from the gremlin's perspective, I like personifying it, I find it to be helpful. I'm like, oh, the gremlin's like, perfect timing. She's tired. She's stressed out. Like, this is great for negativity. Like,
Yeah.
negativity breeds more negativity.
Right. Like, I see my moment.
Yeah.
She's weak right now. She's not going to be able to fend me off.
Yes. So I identified, when I'm tired and when I'm already experiencing a lot of stress, that's when my gremlin's going to come up. And it actually really helped mitigate the situation.
All right. Zoom out and broaden your perspective. Seek out shared collective experiences to remember there's more going on than just what's in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Check in with your feelings. Stop during events on bad days and evaluate your self talk. Is it becoming negative? How can you turn it around?
I think checking with your feelings, like we talk about this a lot, and it's necessary, but it's hard. It really is hard. I'm honestly still learning how to do this and I'm trying, and it's kind of an interesting experiment.
It's your moment to push pause on a situation before it spirals completely out of
Mm-hmm.
control.
Into a panic attack or something.
Yeah, so you need to have the self awareness and the self control to give yourself that timeout. The way a mom gives a kid a timeout, you need to give yourself a timeout.
Mm. Give yourself a timeout. I used to think that timeout was a punishment, and I'm learning like, no, a lot of parents use it to calm their kid down to take that timeout. So that's like a perfect example.
Used correctly,
Yes.
it's an opportunity to
Yeah.
reset.
Find the humor. Laughter can relieve stress and tension. We know that. So, when you need a boost for positive self talk, find ways to laugh, watching funny animal videos or a comedian or calling a friend that you know cheer you up. I love that.
My sister uses this strategy all the time. Whatever's going on, she'll get really quiet and be looking at her phone. And I'll say, "What are you doing?" She's like watching, name one of her favorite comedians, and she'll just sit there and watch funny videos to just snap herself out of something and redirect her whole
Mhm.
awareness and what her brain's paying attention to.
I love that because apparently this is like super depressing, but like, it's something like the average 4-year-old laughs like 200 times a day, and the average adult laughs like, I don't know,
200 times a
once a week.
month.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So we gotta get it in when we can. Surround yourself with positive people. So your tribe is your vibe and vice versa. This is very important. So
Mhm.
whether or not you notice it, you can definitely absorb the outlook and emotions of other people around you. Similarly, if you're hanging out with someone for long enough, you're going to start talking like them with their isms. This includes negative and positive talk. So choose the positive people when you can. The people who you notice can turn a crappy situation into something funny. Like they can see the humor or lightheartedness in things.
Yes, when you have that friend or that group of friends that you know you're just going to have the best time and you're going to have belly laughs, schedule some time with them when you need it and be proactive about it. realize, wait, I haven't checked in with these peeps in a while. We need to get something on the books.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many people that you have to be around through your job or sometimes your own family. And those people, you just have to be careful. Know when you need to minimize your time with them.
Yeah, know your exit strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you need to get out, get out.
Get out. And lastly, give yourself positive affirmations. Like we've talked about this and we've talked about the science behind this. This is huge. Posting small reminders in your bathroom or in a private space, a sticky note or on your phone, in your home, anywhere where you spend a significant amount of time. Like this is basically very similar to a vision board. Just put it somewhere where you're going to see it.
Mm-hmm. Or in your trigger places. You know where I have never put one that I really should, and I don't know why.
Your car.
Yes, on my steering wheel. I don't know why that has honestly never occurred to me in my life before this
Oh,
moment.
I love it.
I think I'm going to put "You got this" on my steering wheel.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, because wherever I'm going, whatever the situation is with parking, all the things I fret about, just, I got this. I got this.
You got this.
You got this.
Well, we hope that you learned a thing or two in today's episode on self-talk. If you haven't already, please leave us a review and rate us. You can check out our episodes anywhere that podcasts are held, and share this episode with a friend that you think could use a dose of wellness goodness.
Thank you so much for being with us again this week. Have a wonderful week of wellness. Until next week, peace, love, and light.
Peace, love, and light.
The Soulful of Wellness hosts are certified health and wellness coaches. This podcast is intended to inform and entertain listeners on their wellness journey. This podcast is meant to enhance, not replace, listeners' care from doctors, therapists, or other medical providers.